Hello everyone, my name is TS Page and welcome back to yet another set review video. Today we have the most requested set on my channel, and that is easily the Phantom Archer set. A lot of you guys have wanted to see this one, and I'm extremely happy to finally be able to bring it to you. My previous video was me actually spending all the money that I unfortunately had to spend in order to get this set, so if you'd go slap that video view after this one, that'd be much appreciated as well. Opened up a lot of ST chests, and got lucky enough, just barely, to get the whole ST set. So this set is really cool and really enjoyable to use, and it is by far one of the best sets in the game, if not the best. On screen now you can see me using the Deathless Crossbow, as well as the Quiver of Shrieking Spectres, and showcasing some of those shot patterns. We'll get to that again later as, you watch some of the gameplay footage and I analyze it, but for now I want to hop into the actual items themselves and analyze what they're good for and how good they are on their own. First item in the set is the Void Bow. The Deathless Crossbow. Yeah, that sounds about right. The Deathless Crossbow is essentially just like the Void Bow, but with 100 less DPS. That's really all it is. It has a base 155 to 200 damage at a 95% rate of fire. With that extremely high DPS though, you take a nice range cut, dropping you down to only 5.6, so you basically are a dagger class. With this, if you are playing in a group setting though, you basically nullify this downside of range because with the Bard now being out and pretty frequent, you're basically shooting more than 7 tiles with every shot, and it's just feels like you're using a normal bow, so it's a really solid item. Next up though, we have probably one of the most unique items in the game and easily one of the most unique in the set. This is the Quiver of Shrieking Spectres. So this is something that's just extremely interesting, and it's almost exclusively a rushing quiver. It's a standalone item as well as very good fitting in with the set. You get speedy on self for 3 seconds, and whenever you press spacebar on top of that, you shoot out a ring of 20 shots with a range of 6 that all slow for 2.5 seconds. So even if something were to be chasing you, you would then slow them, and since you're speedy, you're just going to zoom away from them anyways. On top of that, if you can sit on them, then you have 85 to 130 damage to sit on them and basically do a walking spell bomb. Something else very important to note about the quiver is there's actually no cooldown, so similar to how the tomes of the priest, the tier 6 tome and the Geb tome, can be spammed in theory for infinite speedy, this can be done the same way. That MP cost of 120 though does make it basically so you need a very high level or max divine in order to actually do that, which is a very small percentage of the realm player base. Next up is the Wraith's Brigandine. And to be completely honest, I did not know how to say that until I started making this video, so I'm really glad I learned how to not mispronounce that every time I say it. Anyways, quite simply, this is just the leather version of the Breastplate of New Life from the Lost Hulls. Plus 80 HP, plus 14 defense. It's great for survivability. In exchange for defense, you gain HP. Very simple concept, but a very powerful one at that. This concept really does make this armor a great standalone piece. No set bonuses needed to make it an absolutely fantastic item. I've used this on rogues, Lost Halls rushing characters, and all sorts of characters to be honest, because it really is just, you can slap it on anything and it'll do great. That 14 defense is greater than the Golem Garments, which is already a viable armor piece, and then on top of that you get that plus 80 HP, which no leather armor in the game up to date gives that much HP. So, on its own, awesome item. And now that we've made it through those first 3 pieces, awesome standalone items, I'm sure we're going to get an awesome standalone ring to finish off the set. Wait, that's just not how ST rings work. So once we get ourselves to the Revenant ring, it's not great on its own, and it's certainly not something that you just use as a standalone item. It really does need the set to be worth anything more than feed power. Plus 3 attack, not bad. Plus 9 vitality in the age of pets, pretty pointless, but petless, it's actually a decent ring. And then plus 50 HP. Plus 50 HP makes it actually somewhat viable, especially if you have a bad pet, because plus 9 vitality is essentially a UB vit, and getting HP on top of that makes it so like regaining health is kind of good. It could be a swap out in certain situations, but no. If you do manage to get your hands on one of these rings, then I would actually recommend trying to hold on to it. The ring is extremely good once we start looking at the set bonuses that it helps provide towards the end of the set. So, with that said, let's take a look at these set bonuses. Contrary to most sets, this set has 4 decent items and 3 very, very good items. So, with that being said, you add on set bonuses to an already very fantastic set with no bonuses, and you're going to be in for one hell of a treat. Let's take a look at this and break this down piece by piece. So if you look at the 2-piece bonus, you're given +5 dexterity and +5 vitality. This +5 vitality is pretty much a non-factor because of the pet meta today, and the +5 dexterity is actually a very nice boost to any set's DPS, plus that 3 attack we got from the ring earlier go very hand in hand and are nice complements to each other, giving you a +8 total DPS boost. With 3 pieces though, this is where it starts to get really interesting. With 3 pieces, that +95 MP essentially gives you an extra use of your speedy quiver, giving you an extra 3 seconds of sprint time, which can more than possibly save your life, having that extra sprint to go double your speed for an extra 3 seconds. The +11 defense though at 3 pieces is the part I found the most interesting. When you really think about the math and how tanky you are, you essentially become a paladin at that point. If you add that +11 onto the 14 of the armor you already have, you get an armor that is essentially +25 defense and +80 HP. And not to mention, when you add that full set, you get +105 HP on top of that already high HP. So it's just extremely, extremely good set. You end up with high defense, you're a very fast character, and combining those 2 things with an extremely high DPS crossbow just makes for an insanely busted set. With that said though, I want to do some commentary over some gameplay to actually add a little bit more depth and perspective to how good the set really is. So without further ado, I'm going to go through certain aspects of the set being used in the realm, Godlands clearing, certain dungeons, rushing, and talk about the things that make this set really shine. I will say that Godlands is one of the very few places where the set is not a strong set, I guess you could say, because I feel like I have to put a lot of effort into aiming and actually working on clearing the gods, balancing my distance because of the short range, and it doesn't feel like it shreds the gods. Like, don't get me wrong, it absolutely tears through them, but the crowd control of the bow is not very strong, and I feel it's not a fun set to clear Godlands with. But when we start talking dungeons, that's where the story changes. Once again, I'm going to be using Dee Docks as a great example of this because for some reason Dee Docks always just ends up being a great place to showcase the abilities and items of literally everything. The enemies chase you and you press spacebar and they all get off of you. The Deathless Crossbow piercing and doing that short range doesn't really matter when you're running away because you just shred them all as they chase you. So this set is literally perfect for places like Dee Docks or enemies that chase you around at high speeds, which there are quite a few of. Something I did notice though when playing this, with only a level 80 magic heal pet, I did find myself draining through this quiver extremely quickly. The mana cost being a 120 makes it to where it's really hard to use really consistently if you don't have that really high level pet. But with that said though, it did get me out of any situation I needed and acted as a fantastic speed boost, making this set essentially what I coughed it up to be, an extremely good rushing set with very high damage. The next place I wanted to cover was Oryx Castle because Oryx Castle really does showcase a lot of the good in this set. Clearing through a lot of relatively smaller enemies, the high damage of the crossbow while still piercing is just extremely good for clearing through hordes of enemies like Oryx minions. And so clearing through Oryx Castle felt like an actual breeze with this item, and it was a lot different than Godlands in the sense that the enemies do chase and swarm around you, so you really just feel like you are a human shredder, actually eviscerating everything that comes to your path. As I mentioned earlier, the bards being a consistent part of the group in basically every dungeon now makes it to where the crossbow's range becomes really a non-factor. This bard in this group was pretty ass at actually buffing me, but it still serves to prove the same point. With that bow at 7 tiles instead of 5.6, it feels like you're just a regular old archer with an extremely powerful bow. And this bow is actually extremely good on enemies like the Door Warden as well as the Stone Guardians on screen right now because they don't move very much or they don't move very fast, meaning that you can really aim and focus your shots, getting an extremely high amount of DPS all at once. So with that said, let's go right into Orcs and Orcs 2. So, when it comes to Oryx 1, there's not a whole lot to talk about except for that whenever there's minions and there's a big group that's just steamrolling them super quick, instead of having to avoid shooting the minions, you can just shoot right through them, get your soulbound, grab your mark, and move right into Oryx 2. Rushing Oryx 2 is extremely nice with this set. The very few enemies that do chase you, you can slow whenever you press spacebar, and you have a speedy quiver now, which is the first speedy quiver in the game, so, really just, you're kind of zooming, not gonna lie. I never felt threatened by anything. I didn't feel scared. I rushed about 3 total Oryx 2s on this set looking for footage and stuff like that, and it really just feels like a fantastic rushing set, and that is where this set really shines for an archer. The first phase of Oryx 2 does kind of serve as a small problem for this set because of the shortened range, but the minions once again are no longer a problem because of the piercing of the bow, and so it really felt like I was able to get some solid damage in before the knights were able to show up, or we just pushed Oryx 2 to the first phase. After we did push Oryx through that first phase, we then did get the second phase as a counter rotate or just day's rotation phase. And this phase I find really easy to do both ways, but I was bad and I'm not used to doing it on Exalt still, and so I ended up getting dazed like literally half the times I rotated through. So I decided to say, screw it, I'm going to rotate counterclockwise and just go for straight damage, and it worked out pretty well, just because I have a legendary pet with maxed heal, so I could really just face tank it and rotate counterclockwise. For the third phase of this Orcs boss fight though, we do get the yellow suns, and these are kind of interesting. As always, you just kind of want to rotate out whenever you feel like you're getting low on health. It's basically impossible to dodge all of them, so I do as much damage as I can pushing in, use my speedy to get out of there as quickly as I ever need, and so I continue just, pushing in, doing damage as I can. And with the crossbow, you will see that I actually do a lot of damage to Oryx 2 during this phase because of how much raw damage this crossbow does. It does take quite a while indeed to do this phase whenever you have a relatively bad group, but with that being said, because of how long this phase took, I felt pretty confident in my ability to get top damage on an Oryx. But that can all change during this final phase. As most of you guys know, if he's not stunned, he will throw out those weakens, and those weakens can really mess up the damage of the group and give you an either opportunity to lose that top spot or to gain it back because other people get weakened. So here I'm very conscious of weakens, and I actually use speed here to dodge those weakens as much as possible. I also found this quiver extremely useful when fighting Oryx close combat because I could use that speedy, quickly get out as needed, as well as slow him when I did it so he couldn't really chase me. This felt extremely nice and intuitive for fighting Oryx 2 during this final phase, and it felt like I was easily going to have this top damage secured, but I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I decided to go ahead and speed up the video here just so I can not waste as much of your time. And as you can see, we get back, we push in, do the final bit of damage. Should have gotten the killing blow, but I don't think we actually did, which is really unfortunate. But we did indeed do the most damage, getting almost 17% with 25 people, which pretty solid in my opinion. That does really showcase though the power of the set and the fact that I was able to get number 1 damage with 25 other people there, including melees and all sorts of different classes. It's fully possible I was the best player in that dungeon or in that Oryx 2, but at the same time there's a lot of other DPSing sets out there, and to be able to showcase that this set is really solid when it comes to damage just through that high percent of Oryx kill, pretty solid, feels very satisfying, and I'm hella pay to win. Make fun of me in the comments. As I said though, in the beginning of the video, I did open up all of these sets on live stream and recorded it and uploaded it to YouTube. If you didn't see that video already, link is in the description or in the info card in the top right corner. I really appreciate all of you guys for watching, and it truly does mean a lot to have your support. Went through some really rough times recently, and it's just great to know that I have this platform and people who actually care and listen to what I have to say, despite everything that goes on in life. So with that said, take care of yourself. I really hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.